Good morning. It's Saturday, November 28th. And the other day, the Supreme Court voted 5-4 against an action that Governor Cuomo took when he put a limit on churches and synagogues, limiting the size of the crowd. I don't know exactly what the number was. But in any event, the Catholic Church and some orthodox synagogues sued for freedom of religion. And they won the suit. And I don't believe that Cuomo put the limit on those places for any attack on religions. I think he put it on those places to protect the people. Now, the suit said that it was discrimination because certain other businesses had different limits and they were allowed to stay open with limits higher than what was put on the churches and synagogues. And that may be very well. That may be true. Now, the limits were not put on all churches and all synagogues. The limits were put on by region. So they had a color-coded scheme, and if you fell within a particular color, then the limit went into effect. In fact, right now, none of these churches and synagogues are affected because the numbers in their region are well below what was cited in the court action. So, for all intents and purposes, this suit is moot right now, if that's the word, moot, like non-existent. It doesn't affect anybody because there's no churches and synagogues in the area that are affected by the limits that were put on. Now, this case is not about Amy Coney Barrett either, because a couple of months ago when this case came up before the Supreme Court, the decision was 5-4 in the other direction, and it was upheld. So Barrett had to obviously change the tenor of the court right now. But I'm not talking about the tenor of the court, and I'm not talking about Barrett. I'm talking about the freedoms that we give people, and whether or not the freedoms that we give people interferes with life and death situations. So in some states, you have the freedom of carrying open carry, right? That doesn't mean you can shoot anybody at will. Well, I'm looking at this case, and I'm saying, if the church wants to have this service, their services, what are they doing to protect the people that come into the service? Are they taking anybody's temperature when they walk into the room? If I go to the barber shop, before I sit in the chair, they take my temperature. And they check to make sure that my nose is not running. Are churches and synagogues doing anything like that? I don't think so. Not as far as I know. So I say that if they want to avoid attendance limits, and even if they don't want to avoid attendance limits, they should be taking certain precautions. They're going to have lots of people attending services. I don't know if they enforce a 6-foot rule or if they require everybody to wear a mask during service, but certainly all of those things should be taken into account. And here's another thing I thought of. Supposing I'm a parishioner and I don't feel well that morning. My nose is running and I don't feel well, but I am devout and I want to go to service. And I go to service and I have the COVID and I infect 10%, 15, 20% of the people in the church or the synagogue. And say a couple of those people die. Well, I think if you do that, if you are irresponsible and you go to services feeling like that and you infect 20 or 30 people and 2 or 3 of them die, then you could be charged with manslaughter. How about that? How about deciding that if somebody goes to the service, it's a crime? And they can be charged with manslaughter, or maybe even murder. Would we like that? No. Probably we would be up in arms because of the freedom of religion. And I'll tell you another thing. If we could charge that person for manslaughter, or murder, or something that's maybe not as tough as that, I could also say let's charge the pastors and the priests and the rabbis as accessories after the fact. because they arranged for this meeting. They demanded freedom of religion, but they didn't take any precautions. They allowed this guy to come into the church or the synagogue. They allowed him to sit with hundreds of other people or tens of other people or whatever it is, and they allowed him to spread the disease. Now, you may think I'm a wacko for talking like this, but I have seen too many people get sick. I have seen friends, and my friends are in the vulnerable group. I have seen friends who had to take their significant other out of a nursing home program because people were getting very sick in nursing home programs. And at the beginning, it was a terrible situation. You know how many people died in nursing homes. And I think there were some criminal charges brought against those homes. I don't know whether those charges were justified because it was so early in the game and nobody realized how deadly the COVID was. But in any event, all our freedoms are suspect in the face of this virus. And that's a problem. That's a problem for most people. They love their freedoms, and that's why they live in this country. And I don't want to take freedoms away from anybody, but I want some sensible human beings walking around. You are not free to infect others. You are not free to run around without a mask in a crowded space. And if the people who own those spaces, like the bars and the restaurants and the barber shops and the churches and the synagogues, allow it, and they don't take the precautions that are necessary, then they should be held responsible for the deaths of the people and the infections that are spread. And they would bitch and they'll go to the Supreme Court. Maybe they'll win and maybe they'll lose. But it's time in this country that we woke up. This is going to be a deadly winter. And this case, this Supreme Court case, just proves how stupid certain people are. So, I've said all of that. I'm finished for this morning. Have a great day. Finish the rest of your Thanksgiving weekend healthy and safe. Wear your mask. Bye.